Are you looking for the best gaming keyboards? In this video, we will look at some of the 5 best gaming keyboards on the market. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description. So make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Number 1. SteelSeries Apex, Gen 3. SteelSeries gaming keyboards managed to consistently impress me over the years, especially with the Apex lineup. In 2024, SteelSeries refreshed its Apex Pro for a third generation that consists of full-sized and tankless models, including a wireless version. When I reviewed the Apex Pro TKL Gen 3, I was hard-pressed to find an aspect I would change about it. From the OmniPoint 3.0 switches to the OLED control panel, it has exactly what I'm looking for in a gaming keyboard. Regardless of the model you go with, the SteelSeries Apex Pro isn't a flashy keyboard, but its sleek, simple design is complemented with keycaps that have a bold font type and tasteful RGB that shines through. The real star is the Hall effect switches. These aren't just smooth and buttery to type on. Each keystroke feels consistent and satisfying. And because they're Hall effect, you can set a custom actuation point between 0.1 mm to 4.0 mm for any key. Being able to have an extra short actuation point in competitive shooters is advantageous, and setting it back to normal for work and typing gives it a versatility that very few keyboards offer. Additionally, features like rapid tap, rapid trigger, and protection mode can improve performance, though their usefulness may vary depending on what you play, and be wary of rapid tap being banned in certain games. The OLED panel is great, though, and being able to control things like media, RGB lighting, actuation points, macros, and information displayed is nice along with swapping custom profiles. The battery life is manageable, topping off at 45 hours under ideal conditions, but keyboards are one peripheral where I can work with limited battery life. Number 2. Razer Black Widow V4. Razer has several gaming keyboards in its lineup, and it can be hard to distinguish one from another. Don't get me wrong, the Ornata and Huntsman series are great in their own right, but it's the flagship Black Widow V4 Pro that takes the top spot for me. What the Death Hatter is to mice, the Black Widow is for keyboards. Several iterations have led to a top performer that is easy to recommend because of its build quality, mechanical switches, and additional features. While it may not have that sweet OLED screen with the command dial as seen in its tankless counterpart, the full-sized V4 Pro has a handy programmable dial on top of a column of macro keys. It also has a full set of media controls on the top right corner. All of it is customizable to a sharp degree through the Synapse software, giving it a unique type of versatility that's great for productivity. Razer has also evolved with its own roster of mechanical switches, and the tactile oranges, clicky greens, and linear yellows are some of the best out there. These are all top performers and have a slightly shorter actuation point for quick, clean, and consistent keystrokes. You can also access a higher polling rate up to 8000 Hz, and while it may not be that crucial compared to mice, it is one way Razer covers all aspects of performance. It's the little things and the years of iteration that have led to it being above the competition, as expressed in our Razer Black Widow V4 Pro review, and many other keyboard makers, with the exception of SteelSeries, may want to play catch-up. Number 3. Redragon K582 Carrera. If you pull up Redragon's website or just search for one of its keyboards on Amazon, you'll get flooded with tons of different models, and sussing out which one won't fail you is challenging. With it being a more budget-focused brand, Redragon may seem like one of the many knockoffs out there, but having used the K582 Carrera in a pinch as a cost-effective alternative to the typical prominent brands we tend to focus on, I came away impressed. One of the biggest concerns I had when picking up a Redragon is durability. It uses off-brand mechanical switches and has an annoyingly flashy aesthetic, so I admittedly had some hesitation. But throughout my time using the K582, I rarely gave it much thought that I wasn't using a big brand keyboard. The professional red switches performed as I would expect a Cherry MX Red, smooth and buttery linear actuation and consistent performance. This particular model is a full-sized keyboard, but if the K582 is any indication, Redragon's budget-level TKLs and mini models may fill the void if you want to try those layouts instead. The Redragon K582 Carrera has a listed price of $44.99, which is already super cheap for a mechanical keyboard, but it typically goes on sale for around $36, and that's almost unheard of when it comes to gaming keyboards. Of all the budget brands out there, I can at least say I had a good experience with Redragon. Number 4. Logitech G Pro X TKL. I've been a big fan of Logitech's keyboards through the years. The G413 was a longtime favorite because of its sleek design, low-key Logitech G branding, and buttery smooth keystrokes on its linear switches. That keyboard has more or less evolved into the Logitech G Pro X TKL, which sports a better trim, updated mechanical switches, and the latest Lightspeed wireless tech for top performance. The finer details help the G Pro X TKL stand out from the wave of other 75% sized keyboards out there. The brushed aluminum top has a nice and unique look to it, and the exposed keycap design lets the RGB flourish in a tasteful way. And while other TKLs may sacrifice onboard controls to save space, the G Pro X TKL keeps those kinds of features without getting too bulky. The volume wheel, media controls, and mode toggles are easy to access on the top row of the keyboard, which I find convenient for everyday use. Its keycaps are a bit different than most, sporting a slick finish as opposed to the rougher matte style of other keyboards on this list. Paired with Logitech's proprietary linear switch, keystrokes on the G Pro X TKL are satisfying and consistent, which is what you want from a gaming keyboard. While other keyboards may have the new hotness of OLED screens, high polling rates, or optical switches, the G Pro X TKL does everything it sets out to do, and does it extremely well. That makes it one of the best tankless keyboards and very easy to recommend. Number 5. Corsair K100 RGB. The Corsair K100 RGB was reviewed by IGN's team, and it takes a full-sized keyboard to the extreme. Its brushed aluminum plate is beautiful, letting the RGB flood underneath the exposed keycaps. The Marco key column on the left gives you much more control if you need, and the various media controls and programmable buttons and knobs on the top bar give a premium and look and feel. It strikes a nice balance of flashy and functional as to not be gaudy, but still carry an expensive-looking vibe. And I do like the RGB strips along the side of the board itself. I mean, if you're going to be extravagant, go ahead and embrace it. At $250 for a wired keyboard, you're still getting your money's worth, especially if you get the K100 with Corsair's proprietary OPX optical switches. You can still opt for the mechanical Cherry MX speed switches, which are superb, but optical switches have a unique and satisfying feel to them. It uses light to register inputs instead of physical mechanisms. But either way, it's built on a solid frame that gives you firm and consistent keystrokes. Customizing the macro keys and extra buttons is fairly straightforward, even if Corsair's software is a bit of a pain to navigate. But once you have it all set, the K100 is one of the rare full-size plus keyboards I can get behind. To top it all off, it offers 8000 Hz polling rate, which as I've said before is overkill for keyboards. But hey, if you want the absolute most from your keyboard, it makes sense that the Corsair K100 offers it.